Welcome back to Monday's edition of Morning Ride on Delta Television. Now, as Nigerians, most times we are concerned about diagnosis, we're concerned about drug prescription, but most times we are not concerned about drug preservation. And drug safety, it doesn't really end when the medicines leave the shop. How we preserve these drugs in our homes, how we preserve them in hospitals, in pharmacies, and other health facilities can determine whether they remain effective or they become harmful. And so this morning we'll be discussing drug preservation, why proper storage save lives. Joining us on today's edition of the program is pharmacist Gregson Neal Idibofu. Good morning, pharmacist Gregson Neal.
Good morning.
Good
Thank you so
morning.
much
It's
for
good to have you
joining
on the
us.
show again.
It's good to be back here.
Like I said, most times some Nigerians are concerned about, getting prescription from the doctor or going to get the drugs, but they're hardly concerned about how to store these drugs properly or how to preserve these drugs. So tell us, why should Nigerians be concerned about how medicines are stored?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I will start with something that virtually all Nigerians can relate to. Food.
Okay.
When you go to the market, you know what you want to buy. You come to the house, you prepare it, and you probably eat the first one. For those that will need to eat the food again, and you don't store the food well, what happens to the food?
Gets bad.
Gets bad.
Gets sour.
So, and if you go ahead to eat that soured food, what happens to you as a person?
You fall ill.
Thank you very much. So, same thing, we can use same logic to explain this proper storage of medications. Having gotten the diagnosis and the prescription from the doctor, you get your medication from the pharmacist, from the pharmacy, and you take it home and you do not store it well. What happens is that, one, there are several things we need to now watch out for. Safety for your family members. For example, children are very inquisitive. They can pick up anything they see and they will throw into their mouth, and that is one thing, that's safety. There are other vulnerable family members. I have headache. There is a medication. Some persons believe that any medication you see at all can handle headache. So yes, that's
Especially when it's white.
Exactly. They will just take it and they want to feel better because they feel it's medication. Then again, you have other vulnerable person like the elderly people, who may not probably understand the medication there, and they may mix it up and take the medication. So because you have not stored it well. Another thing you also watch out for is degradation. If you don't store your medications properly, the medication will lose its potency. So you may be taking one medication over and over again, and you are not getting the expected effect from that medication, and you'll be wondering, but this medication was prescribed for fever, and I'm taking it, and I'm not getting well. Even though you are taking it at the right frequency, but because you did not store it well, it has lost potency, so you will not get the expected effect.
Okay, now you gave the analogy of food and drug. Okay, I can argue further and say that for the food, if it's not properly stored, then we can say it expires, in quotes, because we see degradation and all of that. But for the drug now, for somebody that pays attention to just the expiration date, what signs, what pointers can one see and say that, okay, this drug is no longer potent again? And in whose position is it to educate the patient on how to properly store a particular drug? Because one of the things I know, yes, which is very obvious to me in a drug is, or even sometimes insecticides, you see, keep out of the reach of children, do not apply close to flames, and all of that. These are things that, but whose position is it to educate the patient, this is how to store? Because there are some particular drugs, I think, yes, that I've read, they are not supposed to be exposed to some certain temperature and all of that. But the average patient, I don't think they go through the pains to read all of this. So who should educate them?
Okay, I will start with the first part of the question, the expiration and the pointers to show that the medication has degraded also. Now, of course, that is why there's a feedback mechanism from the hospital and from the pharmacies. Okay. So if a doctor is prescribing medication for you after making diagnosis, he's also booking you for another appointment, let's say in a month, in some weeks time. The essence of doing that is that if you cannot reach the doctor directly, so doctor, this is how I'm feeling. So at least 1 month or 6 weeks or 4 weeks, you come back to the doctor. The doctor is going to start from the last prescription he gave you. Okay, how do you feel now? Have you gotten better, or has it gotten worse? That is a feedback. So the doctors will do that because it's Nigeria. If you add enough, because the doctor to patient ratio in Nigeria is in thousands. So I don't even want to go there because it's so bad. But assuming we have a situation where you have 1 doctor to 200 Nigerians, it's easy to pick up and say, doctor, I'm patient Emmanuel this. I came the other day and you told me I had this and you prescribed this medication. I've taken it to, have not gotten better. So at that point, the doctor can begin to probe what medications did they give you. Say this one. Say, oh, my bad. I would have given you this. I would have prescribed it. Or they gave you the wrong medication. Or they gave you this and probably they changed it. I don't want to go too deep into that. Then, say, even also at the pharmacies, either hospital pharmacy or the community pharmacies, they also have feedback mechanisms. In my practice, if I give you medication, whether it was prescribed or I recommended it myself, I would always get your contact. We record it down. Then if the medication is meant to be taken for a week, after 3 days we'll reach out to you. That's in between. How do you feel better? Is there any change? You say, yes, I feel better. Say, okay, fine, you're on the right track. But I've not felt better. In fact, the thing has gotten worse. Okay, please come back. You understand? So that is it. Then again, if the patient says he does not feel better, he or she does not feel better, you also need to ask some deeper questions. Where did you store the medication? Because there are some medications that are meant to be stored in the refrigerator.
So is it at that point of ineffectiveness that you begin to probe how they stored the medication?
Not necessarily. At the point you are giving the medication to the patient, now I'm going to the second part of the question. At the point you are going to giving the medication out to the patient, you should tell the patient everything he or she needs to know about the medication. 1, say this medication can cause ulcer or can worsen ulcer. So if you have ulcer symptom, you cannot use it. But if there is no alternative, please do well to eat before you take this medication. And do not take it for extended period of time. That is one. Then you can say, okay, this medication can also worsen asthma. Are you asthmatic? Say, we need to change this. We'll give you that. But if there is no alternative, if that is the best option that you can give to the patient, you also give the patient the cautionary measures that he or she should take. Then you say, this is how you store this medication. Do not store this medication where children can reach it. That is one thing. That's why in some labels they tell you keep this medication out of the reach and sight of children. Then second, another point you tell the patient is this medication must be stored away from direct heat or direct light.
I don't think anybody has told me that.
Okay, fine. So
the pack they give it to me with the polythene, branded polythene. That's how we keep it on our shelf or anywhere.
I was just waiting for you to land.
Next time you go to a pharmacy to get medication, insist that they tell you everything you need to know about the proper storage of medication.
Sometimes it is written on the drugs. Yes,
exactly.
It's written keep it away from children.
You see some store
in a
below,
cool place.
Exactly.
Yeah, we see that. But
Below
like Ogaga asked,
yes,
whose responsibility is it to educate patients?
Anybody giving you medication or prescribed medication has a responsibility to tell you that this is how you should store the medication.
So this is feedback. Please take it to your community, your association, that
everybody
people should do
pharmacists
better.
They don't. I've never gone to a pharmacy to get drugs and they tell me, okay, you know what, store this one in the fridge, keep this one away from sunlight. I've never been told that by any
I've not in my practice. I've not missed that, and I know my colleagues that I will relate with, the people we get feedbacks from, they also don't miss that.
Oh, they should do more.
Storage is very important.
All right, let me take it from where Ogaga stopped. There's a question he asked. He mentioned something about weather or temperature affecting the drugs. So the weather or the temperature, does it really affect the effectiveness of drugs? Heat, sunlight, humidity, does it really affect drugs?
Of course.
How can one know what drugs would be stored in a cool place, aside from those ones they write stored in a cool place?
Okay, so basically, if for medications that must be stored in the refrigerator at certain temperature, between 2 degrees to 8 degrees Celsius, those medications, they'll be boldly written on their packs. Okay. And those medications are special. They are mostly specialty medications.
Like
for medications like insulin for diabetes, vaccines and others.
So they must be stored in the refrigerator.
Cool, exactly, yes. And then there are exceptions though. Like I know exception like hepatitis B vaccine can be stored at room temperature, but it's better you store in the refrigerator. But if you store it at room temperature,
it's not freezer.
No, it's not freezer. Exactly.
Because freezer is minus.
No.
It's less than zero.
It's not freezer. It's not freezer. Yeah, it's not freezer. And
So-
even as you are storing this, you have a temperature regulator to regulate the temperature at which that product is stored. Then again, I'll come to that later. Now, but for every other medication that it is not specified,
Yes.
please do well to store the medication in a cool, dry place, not above 25 degrees. So that's room temperature, at room temperature.
Room temperature.
Now that's because temperature would inactivate some of the components of that medication. Degradation will set in. Direct sunlight will also deactivate some of them too. That's why you see some medication, they are packed in opaque containers. All these containers that you cannot see through.
Okay.
Sometimes you see dark blue containers, sometimes you see black containers, and the rest of them. So why they do that is to prevent direct light from getting to the medication to the content,
Okay.
because it will degrade it.
All right.
The same thing, temperature too would also degrade them. It's like you are cooking the medication. That's why we always tell people that no matter how simple you think the medication is, never store medications inside your car. Don't leave medicines inside your car.
Okay. Don't keep your drugs inside your car.
Inside
But
the
is it safe to keep our drugs in the kitchen or in the bathroom?
It's also not safe to keep your medication in the kitchen. We tell you don't keep it in the kitchen. Although some persons,
Except you're keeping
some,
it in the
some persons
refrigerator,
have
because some
exactly.
refrigerators are in
Some
the
persons they
kitchen.
have ACs in their kitchen, so they will give you the excuse that, oh, my kitchen is cool, there's AC. But not. I can tell that not even up to 1% of Nigerians have ACs in their kitchen. So we tell you, do not store your medications in the kitchen,
your
except
kitchen or
it
your
is to store in
How about
the
your bathroom?
refrigerator. Why would you keep medication in your bathroom to
Well,
start with?
Some bathrooms have cupboards.
No, there's no
and
point. Don't take your medications close to
I don't know why
your
people
restroom.
do that.
So don't take.
But
You're laughing, but don't you watch foreign movies where it's in their bathroom, they have cupboards, and that's where all their drugs
Okay,
are?
yeah, they keep
And
their
first
medication
aid
because
kit.
that's you are not talking about Nigeria, but that's not Nigeria. But in Nigeria, please do not
Sorry
store
for
your
the laugh.
medication in your bathroom. So leave it ahead. So
Alright.
Don't
let's
store
take
your medications in your car, in your kitchen or your bathroom. Keep them in your bedroom.
okay.
bedroom better.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when it comes to storage, lack of proper storage or improper storage, does it reduce the potency of the drug, or it makes it harmful? So we can understand what really it is doing to our human system.
Okay, so it does the two. If you don't store your medications well, the first part of it is if you don't store it under the specified conditions, the temperature condition, the humidity condition, and the rest of them, there's a risk of degradation for that medication. That means the medication loses its potency.
And it might not always be visible to the eyes.
No, it won't be visible to the eyes. There are exceptions where you see medication, some suspensions that are caked. That one, they've not stored it properly. You shake and shake and shake, and the lumps are still there. You know that the medication has not been stored properly. And that will bring me to to something that happened much recently. There are some formulations of dosage forms of artemether lumefantrine have been withdrawn from the Nigerian market. The suspensions, powders for suspension. That I won't mention names, but when you see artemether lumefantrine, all those ones in bottle, powdered form, that you put water, you shake, and the child will take for 3 days. We've discontinued them in the country. So you either go and do dispersible tablets, where if you open one, you know that the child is taking it.
Okay.
As a dose.
Why was that? Is it because
That
of poor storage?
no, not even storage. Is a case of when you open and you reconstitute it to suspension, degradation starts immediately.
Oh.
You understand? So because of that, it is no longer stable. This has been on for years, but I thank God that the relevant authorities they were bold enough to take that step. So the medications are still in the market, but not in that form. They are now in dispersible tablets, where you take one tablet, put in small water, spoon or so, put water, it dissolves, you give the child. You know that dose has been catered for. If you need another dose, you open another one from the sachet and do the same thing.
Okay.
So instead of mixing everything once, and
And
you are
then
now
keeping it for the next
keeping it for the next
2-3
3 days or
days.
so. So that I just wanted to point that out. Now, medication, if you don't store them under the specified conditions, they will lose potency. That means the patient will continue to take and take and take, and they will not get the effect. And where the safety concerns are coming is, because you are using this medication, you are not getting the effect. There is this temptation to continue to use it for a long time. And if you're going to use the medication for a long time, the side effects begin to accumulate. And so that is where
So
the
does it
safety-
also cause resistance of these
Yes,
maybe
of course.
bacteria or organisms that are trying to fight in your system?
Exactly, it does. It also leads to resistance issues. That is for that. Then for the other safety aspect, Yeah, it's because of course medications, most medications, in fact, all medications are poisons, you know, and some of these medications can be even be deadlier in some category of humans than others. Example, children. So that's why I always say keep medication out of the reach of children. So when you store the medication, you store it in a place where a child can reach it, can open it, and the rest of them. What you have done is that you've exposed that child to medication, to dangers from medication.
Okay.
So a child can ingest, and that is another safety concern too.
All right. I checked some of my supplements and discovered that about 2 of them were expired. Right? Expired medicines, can they still be effective? And then what should we do with our drugs or our medicines that are expired? What should we, really do with expired or unused medications?
Okay, so generally, medications will have the expiration date properly labeled on the pack.
Yes, it was.
Now, once medication expires, it is expected that you should discontinue the use of that medication.
But it looks fine.
Yeah,
Like they were okay.
Yes, even if there are medications that would have expired for like 2 years or so, but if you open them, the pack, they still look very fine in the pack. So that doesn't mean that you should take the medication, because you are not taking medication for the beauty of the tablet, but for the content in that tablet.
So
So
it's not worth our money to waste.
so, and then for supplements, for nutraceuticals, herbal supplements and the rest of them, of course, there is this general belief that even after the stated expiration date, that the medications are still somewhat safe to use, but they will not be as potent as they ought to be after expiration. That is, in quotes, for only nutraceuticals.
Only
That's when they tell you bitter leaf
nutraceuticals.
capsule, cassia
So,
capsules,
herbal-
all those herbal supplements and the rest of them. But for your regular ethical products,
Okay.
please, once they see expiration date, December 31st, 2026, on that December 31st, when the medication have expired, discard it.
Okay, so
Discard it. Don't
you
use
see
it.
this
Don't
point
even-
you brought.
don't
I
even-
was going to ask you to walk us through the nuance of best before and expiration.
Yes.
Because persons have argued, just like you stated, that best before does not necessarily mean that the product is expired.
Expired.
It's just that its potency
Has
reduces.
reduced.
So it means that you can still take it,
Exactly.
although it will not give you maximum efficiency.
Exactly,
So
yeah, very correct.
that's okay. Now let's talk about storage as well. When it comes to storage, what happens where, especially for a liquid medication, that I decide to maybe take it off the bottle to another container because I feel like it's easier for me to sip, or trying to deceive my brain that I'm not taking medicine and all of that. Does it affect the storage?
Yes, it does. The first rule of storage is that leave medications in their original containers. Don't remove them from the original containers. So leave them there. If it's a big container, leave it there until they're exhausted. If it's a tiny, leave it there until they're exhausted. Medications that that they can permit you to probably remove from the original containers could be medications that, we have what we call pill counter,
What's that?
tablet counters.
Okay, yeah.
So this one, that for people that take multiple pills, what they do is that they will just pack all of them, put them inside the container. They say for 7 days they will close it. So day 1 they open, they will take everything. Day 2 they open, they take. Day 3 just like that. So there's something like that. But beyond that, you are expected to keep your medication in the original label container. Now, if your doctors, they need you to take a medication, it's like what she was trying to explain the other, that they keep medication in the bathroom and the rest of them. We all watch these foreign movies, they keep them in small containers. Now, it is because those medications, they count the exact quantity they need them to take for a specified period of time. So when they're exhausted, they must go back to see a doctor. So they will give them what they need them to take for that period. So it shouldn't be more than that. You understand? So for such medications, you can put them in those containers. Those containers now become the original labeled container because they will label it. So, but if you now say because you want to deceive your brain, you want your brain to think that you are not taking medication, you're not removing medication from that place and now put them in another container, is a problem. Now, let me just quickly clarify something. What we say original labeled container, it doesn't necessarily mean that it must be the container from the producers.
Okay.
Yes, at the pharmacy level, at the pharmacy level you're picking your medication, the pharmacist may decide if it is best for you to move those medications into another container. For example, you have drug envelopes.
Yeah.
That drug envelope becomes an original container once they put medication inside for you and properly label it. So if you are moving the medication from that drug envelope to another thing, you have relocated it. That is what I'm trying to explain here now.
What advice do you have for people who travel with drugs? How can they preserve their drugs? And then parents that have children, how can they keep the drugs safe away from children? Because you mentioned keeping away drugs from children and elderly patients as well. So just two in one question. Those who travel with their drugs, how can they preserve them? And then for parents that have children at home, how can we keep drugs safe away from children?
Okay, fine. So I believe that nobody will travel and spend the whole day under the sun traveling. That is one. Then secondly, even if you must travel for the whole day, at certain point, the temperature will come down. Then of course, if you are traveling that long distance, you also be mindful of the vehicle you are taking. The vehicle that is cool, maybe AC type vehicle and the rest of them. And you pack your medication, put your medication in your bag that you can move with. Don't leave your medication inside the car, locked inside your car while you go for your meeting or go to attend to your duties, and you come back under your medication is inside the car. So if you must travel your medication, you can move with your medication while you drive. But as you are stepping out of the vehicle, move with your medication.
Okay.
So and that's for that. Then for children, to keep children safe to keep medication safe from children, we advise that people have medication safe. Safe box, we call it safe box, with lock. You lock them and you keep them, so you can keep them anywhere. But if you know that you don't have the safe box, you keep the medication elevated above the reach and sight of children. Some parents, they keep their medications on their wardrobe, so that children on top of the wardrobe, or on top of the fridge, so that children cannot reach those medications. So anything you do, make sure that the children, they don't have, because children usually they're inquisitive, their sight. Once they see something, their hand must touch. So if they see and they cannot touch it, they want to make moves to see how they can touch that medication. That's why you now see them building chairs, stacking chairs to climb to that. So don't, as I say, keep out of the sight and reach of children.
So when you talk about storing in room temperature now, we understand how climate works.
Yes.
Yes, the temperature in my house right now, especially during the rains, is not the same and cannot be compared to someone in the north. So when you say room temperature, someone where the temperature is higher and hotter, is just leaving it on your shelf or whatsoever still the same as room temperature? And also, I put that aside, it's raining season, and or a situation where water spills and maybe the envelope where your drug is, it gets slightly wet. Should that medication still be taken? How can it be protected? How can we preserve all of that?
Okay, I'll start from the last part. So medications in the envelope, water splashes on the envelope. If it doesn't touch the medication inside, medication is still good to use.
What if it does and there's a little,
If it
it
does,
fits a little?
then that means you need to now discontinue that medication.
Can you not just take it immediately? But the argument now is, if you still take this drug with water, so what?
Yes, you still take it, but at that point where the water or moisture touches the medication before use, you understand what I'm saying now? Degradation will start now. So, but the one you take with water, it's expected that the journey from here to here is not too long. So
and the degradation is in your system
it's
already.
in your system already. So that is it. Then for the other aspect, the temperature and
yes.
what have you. So we understand the temperature differences. Now in the mornings or most evenings it rains, so of course the house will be cool. But in the afternoons when it is all, of course, that's why we have medicines box. Your medicine box is cooler.
How many of us have? I don't.
Anything can be a medicine. Okay, your bag, your normal handbag, your briefcase also. The temperature in your briefcase is not the same as the temperature in your room.
Sure.
Your briefcase will be cooler than your room. So you store your medication, yes. You store your medication inside your briefcase because the briefcase is made in such a way that it can resist temperature heat.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can,
Our electricity sector in Nigeria is not yet perfect. So during power outages, what can one do if the drug they have it's required that you put it in the refrigerator?
Okay, so fine. For the few hours that you have power supply and the refrigerator is on, your medications are there. When power goes off, the refrigerator will still remain cool for at least some hours. Yes.
Do you live in Nigeria? Sometimes
Yes,
power
yes.
outages can
Okay,
power for like a day or 2 days or 3 days.
So
Install
what
solar.
do you do?
Install solar.
You don't have money to install solar, so what do you do?
that's the challenge. I was telling the producer there before we came on set that because of these power challenges,
Yes.
that Nigerians are now at a fix. If you turn here, left or right, you are still.
Should we go and get those calabash pots, those
That may
native,
work.
those native
That
pots
may
we used to
work.
store
That may
water
work.
there.
But the goal
and
is
store
that
drugs
the goal is that prevent it from
from
getting into your medication.
to the drugs. Okay. Now, I also wanted to ask for herbal medicines. Are they also affected by poor storage as well? Herbal drugs we get from you know.
Yes, of course, they will also be affected by poor storage. Going through all these other discussions before, they will also be affected by poor storage, temperature, and of course, but you know, about there's a leverage with herbal preparations because they are natural preparations. Just like when you tell you to take bitter leaf water, you extract it with hot water. You understand? So if you now encapsulate it and expose it to a little bit of it, I don't think anything would happen to it because ordinarily you extract with water, with it.
You
But
extract bitter leaf with it?
yes, now the water, the leaf now. If I tell you now to boil bitter leaf water and drink, you extract it with water, with hot water now. You just wash, except you are the one that want to squeeze and drink the water direct. But so most cases, we'll just tell, most of the leaves they tell you take bitter leaf, take guava leaf. A simple extraction would work instead of just pounding and doing. So just wash them, put inside this and cook them for a while, boil them with water, and you drink the whatever. It may not be as dark as you think because some people believe the darker it is, the more effective it is. But that's not true.
Okay. All right. So, because even as we begin to wind up, what would be your message to? I don't want you to just talk to families, patients, to even other medical personnel. From the feedback we've given you, what would be your message to them as it concerns proper storage and education, patient enlightenment? Okay,
I'll start with my constituency, the medical practitioner. So, it is important that patients know the medications they are using and every other thing about it, storage, safety measures, and like last week I mentioned what to expect from the medication, adverse side effects and others. It's very important to communicate this to the patients we are seeing. And for pharmacists too, you must tell them all the storage part. In fact, from the pharmacy, there should be it should not be heard that a patient picked up a medication and a pharmacist did not tell the patient about proper storage of that medication. It is a crime against our profession. So let me just put it lightly that way. Okay. Therefore, the families out there will be shouting it here, singing it here, all through the program, that proper storage would also include you storing medications beyond the sight and reach of children and other vulnerable members of the family. And of course, also storing medication in the conditions that have been specified or that you've been told at the pharmacy. So if you are told to store this medication in the refrigerator, make efforts to store the medication in the refrigerator. Even if the medication will be out of the refrigerator, probably because of, like you mentioned, because there is no power supply or so, it shouldn't be for extended period of time. There's that grace period, and that's why most medication you take, they don't give you medication for 3 months at a stretch, because they also factor in the storage condition. So if the medication is out of the storage condition for like a few days or so, it may still be very potent. But if it's for extended period, say, we don't have light here, let me just keep it on top of the shelf, and that means you are deliberately reducing the potency of the medication. So take note of that, to store as you have been advised to store the medications. If you are not clear, most medications, they have leaflets. Go to the leaflets, go to the storage, and you see the storage information on those leaflets.
Pharmacist Gregson Idebofo, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us practical advice on how to preserve our drugs. We appreciate your time and your commitment to public health. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And dear viewer, like you've heard from Pharmacist Gregson Hill, your drug can only be effective when you store them properly and when you take them as directed. All right, so Gaga, let's have your take before we wrap up.
All right, thank you very much, Pharmacist Idebofo, for sharing this with me. At least I now know that I have the right to request of the doctor or the pharmacist on how to properly store my medication. Thank you for being a part of Monday's edition of Morning Ride. Do have yourself a productive week ahead.
Yes, and from me, today is the 22nd day in the month of June 2026. It is also known as International Being You Day. So always be you, be authentic, be original while you work on